Hey guys, what's going on? It's D-Free and I'm back with another video for you guys today. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm just going to be talking in front of a picture today. We're going to call this D-Free Talks, kind of Quaman-esque talks. Quaman Talks-esque, my bad. But today I'm just going to be talking about how I got into Dragon Ball. I know that a lot of people have been doing this video lately, and I've been meaning to do this, but I thought it would be something pretty cool just to talk about. So before we get started, be sure to watch the entire video and follow me on Twitter at DFreeDBZHD. I want you guys to tweet me and let me know your moment and how you guys got into Dragon Ball. Just your memories. So, with me, I'm turning 22 later on this year in December. So I'm a bit older. So I was a pretty interesting case. I started watching Dragon Ball around when I was about 6 years old. My earliest memory of me watching Dragon Ball, I was visiting my cousin. I was at my aunt's house, and we were watching Toonami, and it was just Goku fighting Frieza on destroyed planet Namek, and I just thought it was so epic, just, seeing all the action, and that's just my earliest memory of Dragon Ball. I had to have been like 5 years old at that time. And it was just incredible, and I just watched it as much as I could. And my mom was very interesting. She didn't like for me to watch that type of stuff. She was very protective of me. Shoot, she didn't even want me to watch SpongeBob growing up because SpongeBob was a bad influence. SpongeBob now isn't as bad as he used to be. There would be low key references that a lot of people wouldn't really catch up with on as far as SpongeBob goes. But back to Dragon Ball. I couldn't really get into it, so I kind of secretly got into it. My mom didn't want me to be into anything, like Yu-Gi-Oh, anything. She just was not feeling it. But I was secretly into it, and as I grew up, I would watch it just about every day after school. So pretty much as I got older, she became okay with it. She said, hey, you can do it as long as you do your schoolwork and all that stuff. So I'd rush home from school. There were even days where I would knock out my schoolwork while I was at school. My homework while I was at school, that is, so I can just come home and just be like, yep, sit my cheeks down, watch Dragon Ball, eat my food, eat my fried chicken, as Dr. Blick would say. But no, seriously, it was just, I really would just do that, and I'd rush home. A lot of the times what I'd watch around that time where she finally let me start watching it, Toonami would have on Dragon Ball reruns. I'd watch it a little bit, but I really wasn't into Dragon Ball like that. So I would just really skip that, not really care. I can say that I do remember that outro song with Bulma staring out into the rain. I thought that was awesome. The song, the singing, I thought that was pretty cool. And then I got back into more of the Dragon Ball because I forgot what the scheduling was, but they were showing both shows just on different days or at different times, but it was so long ago. And I would just mainly watch the Dragon Ball Z. And really, I don't recall anything else about me getting into Dragon Ball and my earlier memories of Dragon Ball. After that, I know that GT would come on Toonami, and I would watch GT as well. Now, this is early 2000s, like 2004, maybe 2005-ish, at the latest 2006. I would watch GT on Toonami, and at that point, I didn't look at Dragon Ball analytically. I didn't know that there was inconsistencies, that the original creator didn't make it. I just thought it was Dragon Ball, and I just thought it was all the same. I thought it was pretty cool. That stuff I really didn't get into / really pay attention to, actually, until I was older, at this point where I am now, where I know what's going on and things like that. I never really looked at Dragon Ball from an analytical perspective, but I would watch GT all the time, and I thought it was incredible. And then I used to try to collect the Dragon Ball cards, and Dragon Ball cards, the card game was, I don't care what anybody says, that game was difficult to learn. It was very, very difficult to learn. I had a hard time learning Pokemon. I was great at Yu-Gi-Oh, but Pokemon and Dragon Ball, I just couldn't do it. I was better at the Pokemon game than I was at Dragon Ball. I never learned the nuances of the Dragon Ball game, and there was nobody to play with because nobody really played the Dragon Ball card game. I know that around the time that GT was airing on TV, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, but around the time GT was airing on TV, I also had a PS2, and I was playing Budokai 1, and I just thought Budokai 1 was just the greatest thing ever. I thought the graphics were incredible. It was so fun to play Budokai 1. I just remember, fighting in that game and playing from a distance and doing punch energy from a distance just to get a Kamehameha off. You go through the whole motions just to get a Kamehameha off from a distance, so it looked kind of stupid, but I thought it was pretty cool. I didn't know that there was any PS1 games at that time. I was playing that game, and I thought Budokai 2 was such a big upgrade graphically. And when that came out, I was just playing that all of the time, all the time. You couldn't break me away from the PlayStation. Oh God, I burped a little bit. Excuse me, but you couldn't break me away from the PlayStation. When Budokai 2 was out, and after that, I kind of fell off a little bit, because there was not really anything new. I had seen all of Dragon Ball. I had played the games over and over and over. I knew the stories. There was nothing really new. And I kind of fell off a little bit for a couple of years there. And it's pretty interesting because, Dragon Ball, it's 2015 now at the time of the recording, but Dragon Ball is something that I've always held dear to me. And I'm going to get into this a little bit later in the video, but this is pretty much just my history with Dragon Ball. But there were times throughout my youth so far, not that I'm very old, but there were times that I kind of fell off and stopped paying attention to the series, stopped keeping up with the series and watching the series, etc., etc. Because, it was done essentially. And I felt like I've seen everything that there is to see, and I wasn't into looking at it analytically or theories or anything like that, because I was still pretty young. At this point, Budokai 2 was out, I want to say I was like 13, 14 years old. I was still very young. I'm probably skewing the age versus the actual time a little bit, but you guys get the gist of it there. So, fast forwarding a little bit, with the PS2, Budokai 3, played it a little bit, but I never really owned that game until later on in my life. I did get Tenkaichi 1, and I thought that, the way that they did that open landscape game, the way that they changed it up was really, really good. I thought that was an upgrade. A lot of people thought that Budokai 3, and still think Budokai 3 is one of the best PS2 games, one of the best Dragon Ball games in general. They definitely put it above Tenkaichi. But at that point in time, being naive as it was, I wouldn't say that. I don't know. Even now, I don't know if I'd say that, but that's a different topic. But I just really enjoy that open landscape, and it got to the point that I would just my dad, I was living with my dad at this point because my mom passed away when I was 9 years old. I didn't say that, but my dad would go to work, and I'd just call in to school, and I'd try to deepen my voice like, "Hey, this is Donnie's dad. He's not going to be able to come in because he's sick today." And I just stay home playing Dragon Ball, and it was awesome. I go get my snacks, and I just sit up there playing. And also there were times where I was supposed to be going to sleep, and my dad would walk in, and I turn the TV off real fast because I hear him coming up the stairs, and I lay down hella fast with my controller under my pillow, and I was just really sneaky, but you couldn't stop me from consuming my Dragon Ball. It even got so bad that Dragon Ball just consumed everything I was trying to do. And this is still pretty much pre me falling off. And then also on top of that, I got into PSPs. I got a PSP from a friend, and I got into Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai. Shin Budokai was incredible. The first one was great. I remember that. And that was the worst thing for me, because you couldn't get me to do classwork, because I was in class, being sneaky, trying to play the game while I was in class. There were even a couple times where they took it from me and my PSP, and they were like, "Oh, your daddy's come get it," but my dad wouldn't come get it because he didn't buy it. I got it from a friend. It was given to me, and it's there was those type of things. My dad just wouldn't come get my stuff, so I always found a way to play Shin Budokai specifically. I think even I was a little thief. Don't judge me now. I'm not like that, but I think I even stole a kid's PSP when I was 13. I'm pretty sure I did, actually. I'm positive I did, but I got that, and I got another copy of Shin Budokai, and I played another road as well, and I just thought that the Dragon Ball Z on PSP was incredible. It was portable. It was great. I'm not gonna talk about Dragon Ball Evolution, the game. That was meh. Just meh. I'm not gonna talk about it. If you guys want to hear me talk about that, you guys can watch my top 5 favorite Dragon Ball Z games. But moving forward a little bit, this is where I kind of fell off. Getting into high school, early 2007, 2008, entering my freshman year, I was pretty much I was burned out on Dragon Ball. I used to draw. That's another thing. I used to draw Dragon Ball characters. I used to be really, really great with Dragon Ball drawing and all that stuff. But around the time I got my freshman year, I just completely fell off with it because, schoolwork, I started trying to take a little bit more seriously. And then there was all these girls. I don't know how to say this, but girls were such a big part of my early childhood, not my early teenage years. My bad. It was just I was dating multiple girls at once, and I was a singer. I still sing. I've been singing since I was 12, for about 10 years now, and I take it really seriously. But it was like to the point where I would sing to girls, I'd pull them off to the side, sing to them. I'd have me and my friends would be singing or rapping, and we'd have like a whole big old group in the middle of like the lunch field and everything like that. So Dragon Ball really just fell off, and girls took prominence. School kind of took prominence. I was into basketball. I was into singing. Like Dragon Ball just really, really fell off. I started writing lyrics and just everything, and I forgot about Dragon Ball. I'm not gonna lie. One thing I did not forget about at that point, because I was into Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was actually bigger on Yu-Gi-Oh. I would go to tournaments and all that stuff, but Dragon Ball was just Dragon Ball. It was something I could play if I wanted to play. As far as the series goes, the series was done. It was nothing else to it, whereas Yu-Gi-Oh was still ongoing at that point, so I didn't fall off with Yu-Gi-Oh. That was back, if you guys are Yu-Gi-Oh players, that was back when Crystal Beasts were out, and Elements of Heroes, that type of thing. It was really, really big, and I was just really, really competitive. I know that I won hundreds of dollars doing tournaments and stuff like that. So Dragon Ball fell off in my life, to be honest, and it didn't really come back for me until around 2012. I decided that I wanted to kind of rewatch some of the Dragon Ball again, and I went back and rewatched GT because I felt like I didn't really get enough of GT growing up, because it just was sporadic when they were showing it. It would get to the point where you'd watch, like an arc, and this goes for all of Dragon Ball when I was growing up in general. You'd watch an arc, and it will get to the point where they're going to start a new arc, but they start all the way from the beginning again. And it's like, you son of a bitch. Now I got to wait all these weeks for you to get back up again, or all these days, or whatever the scheduling was. And then you start over again. And then it's like, that's another reason why I kind of fell off. So I went back to rewatch GT, even though I felt like I need to go back and rewatch Dragon Ball itself, which I still have not really done. I went back and watched GT, and I enjoyed it. I think that GT was a really well-written series. Really well. It had a lot of good ideas, not real written, my bad. But at that point, I still wasn't looking at Dragon Ball analytically. So then after rewatching GT, because I have my little brother, he's about 8 years old. He's like the biggest Dragon Ball fanboy, because, he grew up on Dragon Ball Kai. He's not 8 years old anymore. He's like probably like 11 now, I think. He grew up on Dragon Ball Kai and watching that and playing the games. He's such a big Dragon Ball fanboy, and he was ecstatic when I told him I had a channel and all that other stuff. But he was asking me questions about GT because he knew that I grew up on Dragon Ball and he wasn't very knowledgeable about it. So GT wasn't airing on TV, so I downloaded all the episodes on my phone, and I watched them, and I let him watch them, and we were just chilling watching them. So after that, I kind of moved on, finished up high school. I got with my kid's mom, and once again Dragon Ball just kind of fell off. And fast forward into this year, I knew that Battle of Gods was out earlier this year, late last year. I knew that at that point when I actually got back into Dragon Ball, because I fell off a couple years. I thought it was great that they had new Dragon Ball film that came out, and I kept trying to watch it, but at that point, like 2013, 14, you couldn't find it anywhere because it wasn't dubbed yet, and you couldn't find it online. You could only watch clips, but the clips are getting taken down really fast. It was really hard to watch it. So at that point, I stopped trying to, and I just forgot all about it. But then, like I said, fast forwarding to the end of 14 and into 2015, I got back into Dragon Ball, and what I did was I just started watching it again. I started rewatching the series again. I started watching the movies again, and it's just one of those things that it never really leaves you. Dragon Ball, it can come back and grab hold of you and captivate you and just grab your interest all over again. It felt like I was watching the series all over again from scratch, and it was just awesome. So at that point, I used to watch a lot of YouTubers. This is kind of how I got into YouTube as well. I used to watch a lot of YouTubers, not really Dragon Ball YouTubers, because I didn't know Dragon Ball YouTube was a thing, really. Like YouTubing for Dragon Ball content was a thing. I used to watch Pokemon channels do that, but I didn't know that Dragon Ball YouTube was a thing. So I just used to watch stuff, and I actually got a chance to see Battle of Gods, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then around the time that Xenoverse came out in February this year, I started trying to look up, gameplay videos on YouTube and see what this game is about, because I didn't even know Xenoverse was coming out or had been announced until a little bit before it actually came out. I actually bought my PS4 just for Xenoverse. I was like, wow, a new game on a new console. I was like, wow, this is gonna be awesome. And that's when I kind of discovered Dragon Ball YouTubers like Rhyme Style and things like that, and Thundershot, and they were doing Dragon Ball Xenoverse content, and I was like, wow, this is really, really cool that, there's people that do discussions and stuff like that about Dragon Ball, not just about Xenoverse, but about Dragon Ball as a whole. And that's what really kind of just led me to get into the series again. And, like I said, just reinvented my love for the series, because after that, I was kind of inspired by the Dragon Ball YouTubers to create my own Dragon Ball channel. And here I am today. So that's pretty much just like what led to it for me. Like, Dragon Ball has always been a thing. I fell off, I came back, fell off, I came back, and we're here again, and I plan to stay around this time. So I want to know you guys' experiences with Dragon Ball. Let me know what your earliest memory for Dragon Ball is, and if you guys had a trajectory like me where you came on with it and enjoyed it, you fell off, you came back. Also, let me know what let you guys get into Dragon Ball in the first place. Like, how did you get into the series? So I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, like I said in the beginning of the video, at dfreedbzhd. I also have another channel where I do my other content, like my Pokemon content. If you guys didn't know, I have a little overlay, but like I have an Instagram, I have a Facebook at dfreedbzhd. So if you guys are on those networks, be sure to hit me up, follow me, like me, whatever. I'll catch you guys next time, though. That's it for me. Peace out.